everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Jessica, also known as Chicprofessor on Instagram, and I make videos on luxury goods, the pre-loved market, sustainable fashion, and workwear. Today's video is all about sustainable fashion. I know that it is something that is being talked about a lot. A lot of people are starting to get into it and understand it and become a little more educated on it, but maybe are still a bit confused. So I just want to do a quick video on what is sustainable fashion and why it matters. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to give you some definitions from some experts, and then I'm going to give you my own definition and talk about why it matters. First thing I want to say is that there are multiple words that we use for sustainable fashion. We can talk about eco-fashion, slow fashion, ethical fashion. I think those are pretty much it. But they basically all are almost the same thing as sustainable fashion. They are sort of interchangeable in a lot of instances, and they really mean a lot of the same things. However, I like the term sustainable fashion the most because I feel like it encompasses all aspects. So eco, you think more about the environmental impact of fashion. Ethical fashion, you think more about workers' rights. Slow fashion, you think about the idea of quality over quantity and not buying into fast fashion. And I think sustainable fashion kind of encompasses all of that. The other thing I want to say is that when we talk about sustainable fashion, there is a lot out there that says that sustainable fashion doesn't exist. We can only have more sustainable fashion because it isn't possible to be 100% sustainable. It's just not in the cards in terms of making fashion, and then even just washing your clothes and continuing to wear them can also have some impact. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to say sustainable fashion, but understand that that is considered more sustainable fashion, making more sustainable choices. So why does sustainable fashion matter? There's a lot of reasons why. There are a lot of impacts that the fashion industry has on the world and the people and the animals that exist in that world. So it was thought that sustainable fashion was the second largest polluter in the world behind the oil industry. And that's a little hard to quantify, so there's some questioning about that, but it's pretty solidly thought of to land in the top 10. And in terms of the water used to create fashion, it actually usually falls second behind the agricultural industry. So there's a lot of environmental impact that happens with clothes, with the dyes that we're making, the toxins that we use to create clothes, how much factories are creating clothes, how far you are sending your clothes, and how much carbon footprint effect that has. There's just quite a bit that happens in the environmental sector. The other aspects are, of course, workers' rights. Are people being treated ethically, fairly? Are they getting a living wage for the work that they are doing to create your clothes? There's, of course, I made a whole video about why I don't like fast fashion, and so you should check that out. And I recommended some great sources in that video for you to learn a little bit more about that. And then the other aspect really is the sort of animal rights and treating animals humanely in the effort of fashion. So those are kind of some of the basic reasons as to why it matters, but I think if you've clicked on this video, you probably already know why it matters. So let's go ahead and get into what the experts are saying in terms of sustainable fashion, and then I will give you my thoughts. So the first quote I'm going to give is a really long one, sorry about that, and it comes from the Green Strategy in June 2014, and this was sort of a conglomerate of people who had a discussion and figured out really what is sustainable fashion and what we should do about it going forward. So they say, more sustainable fashion can be defined as clothing, shoes, and accessories that are manufactured, marketed, and used in the most sustainable manner possible, taking into account both environmental and socioeconomic aspects. In practice, this implies continuous work to improve all stages of the product's life cycle, from design, raw material production, manufacturing, transport, storage, marketing, and final sale, to use, reuse, repair, remake, and recycling of the product and its components. From an environmental perspective, this aim should be to minimize any undesirable environmental effect of the product's life cycle by A, ensuring efficient and careful use of natural resources, water, energy, land, soil, animal, plants, biodiversity, ecosystems, etc. B, selecting renewable energy sources, wind, solar, etc. at every stage, and C, maximizing repair, remake, reuse, and recycling of the product and its components. From a socioeconomic perspective, all stakeholders should work to improve present working conditions for workers on the field, in the factories, transportation chain, and stores by aligning with good ethics, best practice, and international codes of conduct. In addition, fashion companies should contribute to encourage more sustainable consumption patterns, caring and washing practices, and overall attitudes to fashion. End quote. That was a really long one, sorry about that, but it really covers all of these different aspects of sustainable fashion. The Ethical Fashion Forum give us 10 criteria for what qualifies as ethical fashion and addresses the 3 pillars of sustainability. So that is, number 1, countering fast, cheap fashion and damaging patterns of fashion consumption. Number 2, defending fair wages, working conditions, and workers' rights. Number 3, supporting sustainable livelihoods. Number 4, addressing toxic pesticide and chemical use. Number 5, using and/or developing eco-friendly fabrics and components. 6, minimizing water use. 7, recycling and addressing energy efficiency and waste. 8, developing or promoting sustainability standards for fashion. 9, resources, training, and/or awareness, raising initiatives. And 10, animal rights. So my thoughts are basically that those 3 pillars of sustainability that we mentioned before, the environmental impact, the workers' rights impact, the ethical impact of that, and the animals' humane rights, are basically the 3 pillars of sustainability. And companies who are taking any of these 10 steps are companies who are creating fashion that is more sustainable. Of course, some companies are going to be doing quite a bit more than others, and being mindful of the purchases you make and the companies that you are supporting is one step to really make a difference in terms of your own wardrobe and sustainable practices that you are making. You actually own your clothes. Some of the impacts that happen are how much you wash your clothing, how often you wear them, what quality are they, what do you do with your clothes when you are done with them. All of those sorts of things make a difference to our sustainable mindset and the practices that we make to create a little bit more of a sustainable world. For example, if you wash polyester, there are thousands of little micro beads, I want to say, that go into little plastic pellets, basically, that go into the water stream and then affect the water around you. And so every time we wash something that's polyester, we're actually doing a little bit of damage, which is unfortunate. However, if you take fashion and get rid of everything in your closet that's polyester and just throw it out, that has probably an even larger environmental impact. Because even if you donate clothing, most of that clothing still goes to landfills, still creates a big issue. So it's really important to be mindful of your choices and wear things as much as possible. Give them as much life as possible, and then if you are done with them, figure out how to continue their life cycle in another way. Reuse them in a different way, give them to somebody, do a clothing swap, sell them on the secondhand market. That sort of stuff is all helpful. As I said before, there really is no perfect way to be 100% sustainable, so I think that any steps that you take are really, really wonderful. Keep the things in your closet, wear them, try to buy more mindfully, think through purchases, how many times you're going to wear something, is it going to be good enough quality to withstand many wears, all of that sort of thing. Buying local is also helpful because you have less of a carbon footprint of getting things from one place to another, but sometimes you're buying something that's more sustainable and it's further away, and so you have to kind of weigh your checks and balances. Again, there is not really anything perfect. For example, Everlane, the company that creates this sweater, and I really like Everlane sweaters, they make their products in China. It keeps their costs down, which makes them accessible to a lot of people, which sustainable fashion often is not. They're also really transparent about everything, and they look into their factories, but it is coming all the way from China, and often things that are made in China are thought to be made with less ethical standard, and so it's kind of a balance, right? I still am supporting a company that's making a difference, and so I appreciate that. I'm certainly not buying fast fashion. It's something that is good quality and is going to last a while, but there are certainly companies that are much better out there, and I have a whole video about my favorite sustainable fashion brands, which I will link here and down below. So I'd love to know what steps you're taking to be more sustainable in fashion, or if you have any questions about any of this, please do let me know. There really are so many ways that you can make a difference with your clothes, and obviously if you're here, you love fashion, so it's not realistic to just stop buying clothes and to never wash your clothes or anything like that. But there are ways to be more mindful about our purchases and what they are doing to the fashion world. Also being aware of things like greenwashing, companies who are saying that they are really sustainable and trying to kind of jump in on the trend of sustainability, because it is a topic that is talked about quite often, but actually are not being as sustainable as possible. And I've talked about it before, and I did a video on my favorite sustainable apps, which I will also link here and down below. But if you're just getting into sustainability, one of the best apps you can download is Good On You. They have some articles, but they also let you search brands, and they give a sustainability rating based on so many different aspects and criteria that they think about in terms of sustainable fashion, and they give you a lot of alternatives if maybe the thing that you were looking to buy really isn't as high up on the list as you would have liked. So that was a much longer video than I intended, but I do hope that it was helpful. If you do have any questions, again, please do leave them down below, and I'd love to know what sustainable choices you are making or what you're thinking about when you are buying things. Thank you again for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.